It's not nearly as dramatic a matchup as some of its counterparts, but it's still got a legacy. Soniqs and Spacestation have been at each other's throats since 2019, and even though both rosters are near totally different since, it's still setting up to be an absolute banger. I'm Jacob, he's Jay as well as he's Foxay. This is game 2 of day 4 of the NAL. Intro done, game about to start. This is Soniqs and Spacestation, who, yeah, they've been doing it for a long time. But because of where both teams sit in like the upper echelon of the NAL and where they've been for so long, it's kind of a guarantee it's always going to be a good game for the most part.
I mean, we talk about two storied teams playing against each other. We both expect these teams to be fighting for the top 4 spots. And they both had 2 similar games yesterday, with the only slight difference being one team walked away with the win, which was SSG.
Yep.
One team walked away with the lows, oh my God, with loss.
Not quite, not
that
quite.
would be Soniqs.
That's the first time that's happened. I like that.
And it was a battle of just correcting mistakes on both sides. Both teams, round by round, slowly approaching towards that victory at the end or the loss on the end. And we saw a lot of progress from both sides, but unfortunately, like I said, the big difference, one got it, the other one didn't.
Exactly. SSG may be 2-0 and Soniqs 1-1, but the difference is literally a few rounds. And more than that, a simple few gunfights. I mean, you take both games into overtime, one team's going to win and one team's going to lose. That's just how it's going to be. But the team that maybe wins one fight in one pivotal moment, that's the team who comes out on top. And it was Spacestation who won and Soniqs who came up a little bit short.
Right. The worst thing that happens when you lose an overtime game happens, especially when you think there's a comeback in store and it's just not there for you. For both of these guys, because they lost or they both went to overtime, it happened against 2 really good opponents too. So that's the thing. Everyone who fights around the top part of the NAL always feels like they are neck and neck with one another. Spacestation especially have been on an absolute tear for these past couple months, really. They've added Iconic to the team, and everything seems like it's getting to where it was always meant to be for the Spacestation roster.
The late game leadership that Iconic's been bringing, especially with Forrest and Fultz, everybody just coming together to help, has been able to create such a comfortable atmosphere for the whole team. And in those little minute details that got SSG that win yesterday against Dark Zero, it was the pressure that was on the backs of Dark Zero and the pressure that did not affect SSG. Ashen said yesterday that pressure makes perfect. I don't remember the quote specifically.
Pressure is a privilege.
Pressure is a privilege, and in those moments, you're able to make more individual huge plays, and that's where the plays came through because the pressure wasn't on their shoulders at all.
This is a confident team right now, right? And they're playing like it. We saw that in the grueling match that they had between them and Dark Zero. I think that's what Parker phrased it as during the game. It was a brutal slugfest, right? That slow burn we talked about. One of these teams had to come out on top, and the team that was going to come out on top, it was going to be the one that stayed cool in overtime, that tried to do just a couple more things right, make a couple more adjustments, and SSG, they did that.
Pressure is a privilege, and it also makes diamonds, and we also had the privilege to talk to Ashen before this stage started about what this SSG team was going to look like from his perspective.
My name's Ashen, and I play for Spacestation Gaming. Something refreshing about, adding Iconic to the roster, I'd honestly say is, just the amount of hype that, me and him will eventually, bring at, events, stuff like that, or even just, after rounds. So, he's a hype man. He was the hype man of M80, and, they all know me as, a big screamer on SSGs. Already in practice, me and Dave have shown some really good, just like chemistry and just fundamentals being shown just like with one another. So, I'm excited to have him. We're here to put some damage to stage. So, and he's a great player. This stage of NAL, obviously with a roster move, there will be, advantages, but there also will be a little bit of regression. So we're just looking to keep level-headed. It doesn't really matter who we play. We're just looking to one step at a time, eventually make that major. Nothing's changed with the roster move of our goals and our outcomes that we believe we can take. So it's just just keeping the train on the tracks with Iconic, and then just end up making this major and then just cranking.
Ashen keeps having phenomenal performance back-to-back every single game it seems like he's in. And on Cafe against Dark Zero, Homie dropped 19 kills, had one of the highest costs. It just seems like everything for Ashen's going right currently.
He's got 32 kills overall at this point and has established himself as the top-rated player in the NA League, and hoping to keep that up, of course, in the most important match yet. We said he exuded confidence in the interview yesterday. He absolutely did, but he has been electric through 2 games, bringing SSG along with him to victory. 19 kills is an insane number. And when we think about overtime games and the little things that make a difference, I mean, he was pivotal in getting them across that finish line.
Everything for Space Station is not hinging just on Ashen's performance, but it certainly feels like there would be no shot that this team would be anywhere close to the top half of the NAL or in Manchester major contention if it wasn't for his contributions, his confidence, his exuberance, everything he brings to the team. Even doing interviews in shades, it feels like Ashen genuinely can do it all. But can it happen against the Soniqs, who came off a really heartbreaking loss just yesterday in overtime on Oregon? They thought they had that sucker dialed in against M80. They came so close and still weren't able to pull that comeback off.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that even though they lost, they showcased what I think is going to make them one of the top teams this stage. I think we know that on paper, and I think we saw it yesterday. They came off, had a very tough start, with M80 starting off extremely hot, but they showed that resilience and they completely regrouped. They flipped the script and sent us to OT.
And there's somebody on this team who also had an 18+ kill performance in their game from yesterday. So him, there's Ashen on one side, but there's Adam on the other. And just because they sound similar with the same syllables in their name and they start with the same letter, there's no connection there, but it is a big deal what he was able to do even though the Soniqs lost yesterday.
It is a big deal, and it's on a completely different role, a harder role in my opinion, to be able to consistently be sticking on these plays. And it wasn't just about the kills, but it was about the mental structure that he was able to maintain for his team, especially being down so down against M80, to keep getting those kills down. It's able to instill a little bit of confidence in the whole team, letting them know that, hey, if my teammate's still fragging, even though we're losing, we can bring it back step by step. We can climb back into this game. And they were actually able to bring it all the way to overtime. And unfortunately, it was just those little things that weren't able to close it out for them. But bringing that confidence, especially on the secondary flex role, being able to be a good backbone for the team, it creates so much attitude, so much consistency.
Yeah.
And I agree with what you said. That type of confidence is able to carry a team across the finish line.
Everyone in the lobby and watching in chat is able to see the kind of contribution that he has. And it's great to be able to highlight somebody who, on a team full of superstars, when his number gets called, when he does well, it's great to be able to highlight a performance from him especially. Let's talk maps though real quick, because I don't know where we go on something like that. I feel like no matter what map we see both of these teams play, it's just bound to be a barn burner. So I'm kind of excited for whatever we get.
SSG taking DZ to Cafe yesterday, obviously kind of ego checking them, bringing to a map that Dark Zero is very confident on. Obviously, it doesn't seem that anything's really holding them back. They have a lot of... The map's going to be Consulate.
Cons? All right, first
Consulate.
cons of the season.
That's a good map. I mean, previously SSG has been really comfortable on that map. We know Forrest loves playing the Blitz, dropping down the skylights. Soniqs, I haven't seen too much out of their previous roster when it comes to Consulate, but I know it was a wildcard favorite.
I'm trying to take a look, see what Laxing had cooked up for this one. Looks like he had the Soniqs here. I don't mean to jump ahead, but I did want to make sure.
We're doing it right now. Prediction.
Yeah,
Why
I
not?
did want to make sure I had that right yesterday. Things got a little messy when I didn't have the prediction in front of me.
Yeah.
But I think that makes sense, right? I mean, even with this map in mind, maybe Laxing didn't have that information when he made his prediction, but we think of Consulate, we know it can be that close quarters catastrophe that sometimes can devolve into and could work really well with the new shield play, right? We haven't
Also
seen
could,
Consulate yet. Blitz was always played on this map, at least since the rework before this patch. Maybe he'll be played even more.
What do you think, Fox?
I talked about it before that the map's been leading me elsewhere. Consulate, I had Soniqs picked beforehand.
What?
I'm going to switch it. This is the first time I'm going to switch it. I think I'm going to go with SSG for this one. Also, if I get it wrong, it'll be a little bit closer to Jesse and Lag. So I'll keep it interesting.
It's more fair, you know?
Yeah.
You saw your total drop below 66%, and you're like, I got to do this thing to flip it in the other direction, right?
I saw, honestly, it was the map. It was Consulate. I know Consulate's a very comfortable map for SSG, and getting Iconic just makes it that much better.
Gotcha. Well, the race for the North American League Predictions Championship gets a little dicey when people on the desk decide not to agree with one another. Gentlemen, Lynx, Stokes, do you guys, what way do you guys swing on this one? Have fun with the cast, by the way, but where do you guys go?
Me personally, I think, I'm gonna be honest, I think SQ, after having a long night in the hospital, getting cured of their case of trollitis, a very bad case they come down with in the M80 game yesterday, I think today they should be able to bounce back. However, like Fox, I will say the map pick of Consulate did give me some pause.
So you're sticking with Sonic. So that's the moral of the story.
I am sticking with Sonics. I'm a believer in the system and the roster and their ability to bounce back from mistakes made yesterday. However, I understand where Fox is coming from.
All right, well, it's going to be a split desk here because I'm going for the astronauts, baby. I'm going all the way to space with Spacestation Gaming. And honestly,
Just a bandwagoner.
You know, somewhat. But, I mean, I'm not bandwagoning until later. I've got a Dark Zero long sleeve on. So we're not bandwagoning hard just yet. But I am feeling the Space Boys for this one. And honestly, it's really just because of what Fox was saying. I feel like this is a very comfortable map for SSG. And adding Iconic, which can be a very dynamic player, especially on maps where aggression can win you big rounds. I feel like this is just a fantastic addition for them.
Well, I can say, sorry, Ashen.
You guys are like Papa.
Ashen talking in chat made me laugh. Wow, it's literally the DZ bans. That's actually really funny. I mean, I imagine he's probably going to have something to say about that. He had something to say about DZ banning Dokkaebi and Azami like they always do yesterday. But I will say, going to Consulate with SSG in the lobby on this map in particular, as I'm sure many of you, if you're a North American fan, have deeply etched in your brains. One of the biggest comebacks we've ever had in a map at an international event was with SSG coming back, down 0-6 on Consulate to win 8-6? Now, did they lose the series against FaZe? Possibly, but in a best of one. As we just saw, a comeback in one map can make the difference.
Most definitely. And that's the beauty of best of one, for the stages as well, is that it might be a little cheesy. Maybe you have some rounds that are just like a niche thing that you're going for, but if it wins you those moments, then it more than likely be a big win down the line at the end of the map. So see what Space Station want to do here is they're going to be the ones starting things off on the defensive end. It's going to be a top floor defense, and we've seen this gone about from the offensive perspective in a lot of different ways, Carter. The most direct one that we've seen is working your way in off of this west window here, flying into CEO, sometimes hopping back out in case you're worried about utility, which more than likely will happen here if they do end up going for that line. But just trying to get that plant around that CEO window. Past that, we see a lot of things happening from the east over on the admin side, trying to work your way past this checkers hallway. And that requires a little bit more heavy lifting, doesn't it?
It does, and you can immediately tell why that is based on the map structure, is once you get into that admin position, if you're able to push any defenders back early on, you only have a couple doorways to funnel through with only some support from the Visa stairs or the spiral stairs. You can see Janino getting very aggressive early on, nothing will come of it, but there is a very solid hold on this part of the map. There's the Fenrir and the Vulcans all stationed around this area, with, I imagine, a couple players also playing around that utility. So if it is an east-sided clear from Soniqs, it's not going to be pretty. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's a solid read on the scenario. Speaking of reads, Ambi having no idea which angle was being occupied there. And SSG making mincemeat of him, in particular Fultz at SMG 11. As Discovery is Soniqs just not really respecting what SSG have actually created. Well-calibrated defense so far for them.
I gotta say, I mean, Ambi obviously going down first, not great, especially with the buck, can't apply that soft destruction from below. But Ambi also coming off the back of a very, very rough game against M80 yesterday. Deep into the game, 7-8 rounds in, having 0 kills at some point, really struggling to have impact in that series. And as one of the main entries for Soniqs, if he's struggling to have impact in the early round or at all like yesterday, SQ could be in for a rough showing.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely not the greatest day for him. 4-13 at the end of that one, a .52. And really not something that we would ever expect out of Ambi, for all intents and purposes, from the day that he started, the very first day of SI group stage. He's looked immaculate. So honestly, probably due just for kind of a off day. And we'll see if he bounces back today. Definitely not the greatest start with him trying to work his way in down low. With only a minute remaining, Soniqs not capable of doing too much just yet, but this build-up starting to work into their favor. They've got some players positioned over on the CEO window, do have some Bs implemented too, and that's going to bait out the Goyo canister, but also be a telltale sign of what Soniqs want to go for.
It will. It's very, very easily telegraphing to SSG, hey, this is what we're going for. We want to go for the CEO. We're burning the utility on this side. The biggest point they had was down below. Having some control with Rexen down there, now having an air jab down below instead, but this is what I was worried about. You have the smoke canisters go out. Gio immediately has to leave the area. Merc pushing up the hallway. Easy fodder for that shotgun from Ashen. He'll even retake the space, make sure nobody can drop back down and turn. It even puts some subtle pressure onto Adam. By not even taking the engagement, just by being there, he's now concerned about holding this bathroom window. And if he hops in, he's got two different players watching his position. This is pretty much a lost round at this point from the Soniqs. Having to back down after the final toxic canister from SSG go out. Forrest cranking a little bit and will give away two different picks. Gio can actually get this bomb down now. If Rex could get the final pre-fire, maybe it would have worked. Bit too close there, bit of trollage from SSG, but given the man count, they're able to still make it work.
And using that man count at the end of the day to win them that round as well as they kind of bullheaded back into CEO. But I like the initial idea there from Space Station. Hold the full breadth of that top floor, delay things out for the Soniqs, see how they want to try and deliver things on that top level. And as we both said, kind of telestrated there on that CEO side as we start to have the Bees work their way in. And they'd already lost Ambi, so they really can't gamble too much with their current situation. SSG are able to nip it in the bud very quickly on Soniqs' entries. And they can kind of play things out with utility past that point. Yeah, it gets a little scrappy near the tail end, but nothing that SSG can't handle given the scenario.
And they'll move on. Not really much else to say about that. Just a solid utility hold. SQ playing completely into it and completely faltering to it. Move down to the basement floor where we'll likely have a bit more off-site presence from SSG, not only indicated by Ashen's presence on the Solus, but the power that vertical control can give to attackers if they're able to stake their claim on that middle floor. Whether it's on the Visa side, getting that hatch to maybe make a backside clear easier, but especially on that front side, if they're able to open up the garage wall and apply pressure to anybody playing down below. Well, oftentimes we'll see teams play further back inside a cafeteria or even inside a pillar, but not really push too far up.
No, most definitely not. Speaking of pushing up, Ashen pushing the limit of Consulate right now. He's all the way up inside of admin office. A respectable starting position for the defense. An aggressive one, though, as he'll more than likely try and either search for somebody off of spawn or search for somebody around this main door, and that's exactly what he's done. As though there's some other pressure. Does have the capabilities to try and play around this. It's going to be Forrest that goes down first, though, as he flies sky high out of what I believe is the CEO window. Try and take a gunfight, but Gio will send him to his maker.
Forrest is one of the most aggressive players on this roster. Despite typically being on a bit more backline roles, he takes the most entry engagements consistently on SSG. 5 and 5 right now at 10, the only one with total double-digit entry engagements up until this point, but that doesn't mean he's always winning them. He tries to get aggressive, tries to set that pace, and in this particular case, it doesn't really work out, unfortunately. Doesn't give away a lot of utility, but depending on what codes were and were used, could prove to be a problem, especially as it seems Soniqs aware of that player all the way up on the top floor. So as they drop down, try to get Ambi ahead of the Solus inside of admin. Round might be done. Merc and Gio have flooded in. A nice little flick by Ambi to make this a 1v5. They know Ashen's upstairs, and they know he has to rotate down now. So while his exact position might not be known, it's very quickly found out. Nice little answer back by the Soniqs. A flawless to tie the game.
Very well done. I especially love the fact that we got to kind of see how things got comboed out to try and assist with Ashen's positioning upstairs in admin. You could see that was kind of a thorn in the side of the Soniqs there for quite some time, but more than capable of working their way in, especially with Ambi, as he was able to drop down that main hatch with that comboed utility. Well, to not only get that done, but also get that big kill downstairs inside of that construction hallway. Soniqs able to work off the back as well as they had those other pressure points around the map, able to garner 2 more kills on top of that, make the man count situation more than, in their favor. Soniqs not really having to worry too much past that. Space Station not really able to hold a candle to that push as they decimated SSG's downstairs setup.
The attacks yesterday were Soniqs' big strong points, so if they're able to recreate that same trend here on a map that typically Similar to Bedroom, SI was a bit of a weird example where Consulate was actually a bit even overall. This is still a map that layout-wise typically leans defender-sided because of the tight angles, the defense having the benefit of the attack having to clear them and being able to react a bit easier or be proactive a bit easier against the attack. So if Soniqs are able to run up the scoreboard here, get a 3-3, even a 4-2 like they did in their Oregon game yesterday, while cleaning up the main problems they had, which was their defensive side, attacks like that are going to go a long way for SQ, especially after that bounce back in round 1.
How both of these teams with a score on the board. Even game now. 4 rounds still to go on this defensive side for Space Station, so still some solid looks that they can give us. Just going to start with another site that we haven't seen just yet. Head towards this mid-level and defend things out on piano. Ashen more than likely going to stick around yellow with this smoke utility. It's such a solid option for a situation like this. You have that M590 as well as those toxic babes. And Soniqs want to try and take a little bit of movement away from him with these track stingers.
Got direct intel on his position, so while Ashen might feel a little squeezed by the utility from the gridlock, despite the knowledge of his position, SQ not in a position to really act on it at the moment. Utility being used on the top floor. The Selma's making that rotation between, well, I was going to say the bomb sites, but the upstairs bomb sites where it's currently not the objective. Projector and CEO, a little bit more difficult. Another EE1D used, or the first EE1D used, but no capitalization just yet. It's been a lot of intel, a lot of utility, but now presence. Telegraphed by the SQ players, Geo will smartly throw out a nade in response because Ashen was taking that ground and quickly seeking that engagement. He is pushed down. The track stingers will cut off his retreat. But the round might be over before this side quest on yellow even reaches completion. Janano has found 2 big picks and is gunning for a third on the close SMG-12 angle. Finds a 3-piece in round 3. These rounds completely one-sided, no matter who's taking the win.
Yeah, and the Soniqs, they just can't get things to go with their initial game plan, so they start trying to traverse this top floor, work a few different angles over towards that CEO space. But SSG, they're ready for it, and really, J9O in particular, as he's been the one with the heavy axe decapitating the Soniqs thus far. Only 2 players remain now. One of them has been sussed out by a goo mine. He'll try and connect the dots as he'll destroy one of these barricades. They know that SSG have a lot of players on this top floor trying to work these angles, but with so much solid utility around the map right now, Lynx, they are constantly getting rediscovered in their journey to try and find anything that can potentially be a positive sign in round 3.
And it seems like there won't be much. We can have a second ace of the day. They know the Warden's in this corner. SSG might feed him to it.
Goodness.
Yes, indeed. Man, 2 aces in both of our games today. Unfortunately, Janano a bit less flashy than Hat, I will say. No clutch as well, but good showing from Janano. But again, a 3rd round where the team that loses just doesn't even look present in the round.
No, and it's really due to them not being able to take control of things around yellow like they want. And again, I really like the idea that Soniqs are more than capable of seeing that things are taking a little while and making adaptations to try and get some pressure on that top floor. But, I mean, they bet a lot on being able to take out J9O, and the way he's able to dice up those engagements and make them more than palatable for himself just makes that situation a non-starter for the Soniqs. And again, it's not from a lack of trying, it's just from how skilled J9O is in that situation.
And also, I mean, I think overall we had, what, 3, maybe even 4 people on that yellow stairs guy with 2 to 3 on the roof and Geo down below. A heavy investment from Soniqs onto that position and getting very tunnel vision, spending almost half the round on it. So getting nothing from that, and like you said, being fodder for J9O's MPX. Bit of a rough round 3, but we know SQ have a good attack in them. We saw it previously, just as we know that these defenses from SSG, both on the merits and on huge individual plays, in the case of last round, can be very strong. Just a matter of, hopefully, those 2 things happening at the same time if you want the rounds to be close. This would be kind of a weird game if it goes to overtime, but like every single round is like 1v5, 1v4. Just be very tricky to get my head around, I'm gonna be honest.
And we've had a couple of those throughout the history of Siege. And yeah, kind of a clown fiesta whenever that happens. It's like, oh, nobody can really fight back when somebody gets the ball rolling,
why
can
does
they?
Why does this game feel really one-sided when every round is flawless?
It's truly insane whenever that does happen. But I don't feel like that's going to be the case in between these two. I feel like all of these rounds that we have on the docket are going to get pretty scrappy here at some point, especially given the circumstances between these two teams. I mean, I feel like their play styles match up pretty well, especially when it comes to execution time, right? Should have a lot of high-flying antics going back and forth. Speaking of Iconic, looking to try and push his limit around the manager's office is trying to swing off the door for admin. Soniqs not trying to deliver just yet, using that first minute to try and understand the positioning of SSG on this top level. I'm going to push Merc into tellers, at least initially, with Ambi.
They've also got the cutoff for Iconic's position upstairs, so a pinch could very well happen, and indeed it does. Don't even need the players down below. Forrest maybe contemplating a race swing, but two different players end up falling to Geo on this window, and Forrest being well, I guess an uneventual third as he decides to back off, but still being a third potential player to swing that window. It's a bit of the worry I have for SSG in this game. At SI, it was less of a problem, but in the two games they played so far against LG and DZ, they've shown a tendency more like the antsiness that we saw from them in Stage 2 in Atlanta, where sometimes they might make a play they don't need to, take a gunfight that's unnecessary, and while I think Iconic was cut off, Jay and I know swinging that position, or maybe rotating, is still an unforced error that gives Soniqs a 5v3. Ambi looking for the third kill for SQ, instead it's SSG somehow making this a 3v3, and Ashen could very well trade here, but Ambi's able to back off very quickly. Instead, he turns around and cuts down Merc, costs most of his HP, and puts SQ in a very difficult position as Geo has to flood into the site, acquire a bit of control, but allow Ambi back in to put this diffuser on the floor. Ambi's still waiting to put the case in that position. Geo will hold fast, try to get any of these angles that SSG might give, but nobody swings. They'll bet it in the post plant. Geo's rotated deeper into the site, knows the Solus is close, but the impact grenade hits him right in the head. Ambi on reduced HP needs to find both of these kills. The spray transfer, he barely even comprehend what's just happened. Cold as ice from Ambi, but a close round for SQ.
He definitely said boom after that. You could see it. That was the first thing he said. got a little excited. He was like, whoa, gotta calm down. That was only one round there. But either way, great shot there from Ambi and way to make your presence known in the game. A slow clutch moment there, and we'll get another round on the board for the Soniqs. Tying things up on this offensive side. And hey, great understanding of the positions there from Space Station. Good communication from them in that moment too, is not only are they able to battle back against SSG, but do it in a situation where SSG were starting to take off big chunks of this beast that is the Soniqs, and still somehow, some way able to stave off that round, stave off SSG, pick things up for round 4. Now on to round 5, Space Station. Feeling as though the basement is going to be the best option.
And this was the side of SQ's, most dominant victory so far. And honestly, I think for SQ, just praying that SSG don't really stock up resources on that backside, because whether it's the basement or the top floor that we just saw, the east side of the map on the bottom and the top floor respectively are a little similar. Very tight corridors, singular doorways, difficult to funnel through, whereas in the round we just saw, SSG, heavy resources on that side, smokes, F-nods, all sorts of utility to make that push harder. And while the round ended up going SQ's way, they tried to flood down through the basement last time on this east side, where there wasn't that same presence, the same single doorways, the same tight corridors, but nobody really in their way until they got to the bomb site itself. So if SSG make that adjustment here, honestly, even though it's the opposite side of the map vertically, the round actually might happen similarly, depending on the changes SSG make positionally.
Definitely could. I feel like Ashen's going to play this out slightly differently, and they'll have Iconic and kind of a pseudo full court press over on this end, just making sure both of these levels are held down. And where Soniqs don't have the ability to try and slip through the cracks.
Uh-oh.
If Jack on that space, and Merc. He's so talented when it comes to peaks like this. Ashen shows but a pixel of his shoulder, and Merc's already sending shots downrange at a head level. Removes Ashen from play. Now Soniqs have top floor control. At least when it comes to that side. Now when Forrest in the bathroom, spoke a little bit too early.
Forrest, unfortunately, quite literally caught with his pants down, but somehow makes it come back. A nice little flank. Nice little pinch, really, from Iconic and Forrest. And this round gone. This round done. 4v1. Merc, the player who got that opening pick. It's a pre-placed C4 to end that. This is such a weird game, man, but it's entertaining as hell.
I don't even think that was pre-placed. I think he just tossed it off of his footsteps up top and got lucky with that spray, or rather spread. Either way, that's going to be a round for Space Station. And instead of doing what we potentially thought was going to be the happenings there in that round, right? You see Ashen kind of show face, maybe pull back on that top floor, allow Soniqs to take some space, delay a little bit of time, but keep that man count, right? They do the exact opposite. As soon as things start to, go down inside the water, a little bit of blood, little, droplets coming around, they're able to just immediately snuff it out. And SSG, just a fantastic flurry of kills, really catching them off guard in a lot of different cases. I think the Soniqs thought that roam was really going to be the brunt of the force, but instead they got the full roster, just a full line of combatants across the mid and top level.
It's moments like that, too, that really highlight why this SSG roster is so good, because sometimes individually, they can overcook things a little bit. They can crank a bit too hard, push a little bit too far, and we end up saying, what the hell? Why did you make that decision? That seemed very weird. But when they're doing that and they're getting these ideas as a team together, not even strategically, but just saying, hey, I've got an idea for a play. Here's this thing that exists that the attack is doing. Here's what I think we can work around it. And they're able to all get on the same page and all enact it with baffling synergy at times in a good way is really incredible. And what this roster, SG, do really, really well and has been one of the big parts of this defensive half so far.
Definitely. It could be the story for round 6, too. Foltz is going to be the one to don the mantle this time around. Solus in play, and they're going to try and lock things up for the balcony. That impact will strike true. Direction will have to go back over there if they do want something that is traversable, not just something that's an angle for that suicide balcony that's on down a little bit in play from what was the previous iteration with those windows that we're also used to. Now Ambi in with the Clutch drones, trying to have some discoverings, some happenings here on this top level, and there's quite a few, as we can just see 3 lined up. It'd be a pretty serious problem for the Soniqs down the line. Oh, just got to make sure it works.
Just testing it, saying, hey, could you look at this real quick? Making sure that the blinding actually functions on that shield. Unfortunately for Ambi, I will say the Clutch drone's not having a lot of impact, so depending on where this blitz runs, might run into some of those F-Knots, and, well, it's not even the F-Knots that do the talking in that early round. 2 players from SSG. Kills, make it a 4v3. The Mercs able to bring that back, even if for just a moment. They've cleared out that top floor, which, to be fair, Soniqs have struggled with so far. Hitting the site, that's been working, but the roams have been difficult. This time, they just barely make it out even.
The big issue is that you're going down to a sub-minute. Merc, minimal HP to try and take these engagements. Yes, you have verticality, but you're going to be asking for a mistake out of Space Station. And so far, they've looked very solid in scenarios like this, especially when they have people like Foltz and Ashen still up and about. Don't count Iconic out of this either, but really, this is anybody's ball game at the current moment. Merc going to get this drone in. Let me see what he can discover. Knows that there's a player over towards yellow, so this is something that the Soniqs can work with.
It is. Whether it's a push-up from the bottom floor or even just somebody pushing behind a hot drone, there is something that can work here. The bees from Merc as well, launching it into yellow, or at least making Ashen rotate back to the side a little bit more difficult as possible, but here we see Foltz retaking the top floor as well. Are Soniqs aware of this? Do they have any drones as the kills are going down on the site? Ambi's actually finding one. This is a player that could be ran into by Foltz, but Ashen retakes the top floor. Him and Foltz not communicating, or maybe they are, but clearly is not aware of Ambi's close position on yellow stairs. Foltz can spot this diffuser, but Ambi can watch as the impact goes out, tries to bait out the swing, and it's successful, but not winning the engagement. Even half between Soniqs and SSG, and really, I think well and truly nobody actually looking strong that half in the totality.
Oh, I definitely agree with you on that front. It seems like this could be anybody's game, especially switching sides. This is going to be a completely different story for both of these squads, respectively, as you have to go about things in a completely different way. For Space Station, I really think that they'll be able to apply themselves, especially with very similar strategy, at least when it comes to the pacing, as to what we saw on their defenses. But for the Soniqs, I feel like things are going to get a little bit more calculative. We did see some really solid happenings, especially for, I'd say, the Sonics on this offensive side, being able to pull things back into good graces, especially for Ambi's sake. I think he showed up, especially in a couple of those rounds, as really the winning factor. You know what I mean?
I mean the 1v2, obviously, and that was a round that SQ were performing really well. Geo gets 2 picks on that rappel, but then SSG just playing the map as you should, playing a shotgun close on the CEO door, between CEO and the admin hallway, forced as well right by that position to play off either Ashen's contact or Ashen play off his contact. That's exactly how you should play it. 3v5, 3v3, 3v1. That is the strength of that spot. And when SSG make that work and they put Soniqs in an uncomfortable spot, it eventually falls on Ambi's shoulders, and he's able to make that play happen. He's having a much better day than yesterday, not just in terms of the kills, but in terms of those impactful rounds. He really didn't have many yesterday. Moments, rounds, anything. Here, he's got that 1v2, and he's got a pretty decent performance so far. But then again, same could be said for SSG. We obviously had that big J9 ace round, but when this team has been working, or when, I guess in the past tense, the half is over, when this team has worked on the defenses, it has been doing what SSG do best. Coordinating, talking, making plays off of each other, building something ad hoc in the round that is really incredible to watch. It's whenever these teams have won, aside from Ambi's 1v2, it's been a really well-executed strategy by that team, even if it makes the other team look silly in that round.
Yeah, 100%. But that's the beauty of having teams that are so unbelievably talented. When they are able to get that full swing on one of their strategies, they're probably going to make the opposition look silly, aren't they? And that's what we got in between these two. I'm excited to get back into things here because I want to see how both of these teams respectively start off these sides. Are Soniqs going to try and be aggressive, or we're going to see more of a turtle-esque setup, trying to just hold things around the bomb side and allow SSG to take that initial ground, but try and fight harder for other things? The world is really their oyster, and the Soniqs have always had a really deep playbook when it comes to their strategy and what they can try and pull off, especially inside of a best of one.
And one thing I think for the Soniqs, that if they can fix the mistakes their defensive had yesterday, they will really have a strong defensive half on Consulate. And it's just not overplaying your hand. If you're holding a position, if you have a man advantage, don't make plays you don't need to, don't take risks you don't need to, or if you are going to take a risk, make sure you set up the proper precautions and take the necessary steps to make it as likely as possible it'll pay off in your favor. Yesterday, we saw people swinging breaches they didn't need to, going for early peaks they didn't need to, and not doing things as a team, and it really cost them against M80. And against a team like SSG, if they're making those same mistakes today, if SSG can do anything on their attacking side, it is take those openings that are given to them, exploit those gaps that are left in the enemy's defenses, and flood in and end the round in a minute if they're able to make that call. But for SSG's attacking side, I spoke to Call Out a little bit before the stage started, and one thing that has been a consistent project for SSG has been the late round calling. Not even the early round, gap finding or the huge, pre-planned rushes. It's been making sure they can coordinate that late round. And if SQ aren't giving openings, that late round needs to be as strong as possible to make SQ uncomfortable.
Well, it's really about the building blocks, right? If you're able to find a solid opener, and that doesn't even mean, opening kill, just solid opening map pressure, able to kind of get the initial portions of your list taken care of where you're able to transition well into an execution. It's really just finding the gaps in that moment that I feel that SSG we're trying to look to fill in. And why not? Especially with a player like Iconic. Not only is he able to see those gaps, but he's able to exploit them in and of himself. And that's a lot to rest on one player's shoulders, but they rest firmly on his and have for years. He's got a historic track record. Even though M80's results were a little spotty with his previous roster, still a player well within his right to make a run for really anything at the end of the day.
And I think that's one of the biggest exciting things about this SSG roster going into this stage was, of course, Iconic reuniting with Call Out, reuniting with that Astralis core of J9O, Forest, and sure, Ashen wasn't on the roster and Fultz wasn't on the roster, but Ashen especially, he's got the vibe of that Astralis roster down to a T. Like, he could have been there, and he likely would have fit just as well there as he does on SSG because of how similar these two systems are. But Iconic over Hot and Cold, sure, it sucks seeing a really big name like Hot and Cold, who's been on SSG or was on SSG for 3 years. It sucks seeing him go, But Iconic plays a very similar role, and it's undeniable he does it very well. That whether it's calling a gap he sees, or specifically, you know, playing Nook a year ago, or just playing Ashe nowadays, whatever he's doing, he is the guy to find that opening, exploit it, and do a really good job at calling that to SSG so they build a cohesive plan around it. We do thankfully have everybody back in the lobby. So whether it's Iconic, Ashen, Rexen, Geo, anybody, now thankfully, with the previous half done, we've got a new half to look forward to for what both of these teams in a close game so far could accomplish.
Top floor defense for the Soniqs, opening up a lot of verticality on this top level, making it to where if a player is able to get in down low later on, you have the potential to try and stop that plant. That's what that's all for, right inside of that main door coming in from Checkers. But as of right now, SSG going for more of a Western assault. You have the Gara hook there on Ashen, so kind of a tale as to what we're going to see probably here in a handful of moments.
It's SSG. They're playing shields. Like it's just a fact of life. Though I have to say, I am extremely shocked. Extremely shocked. It is not Forrest on those shields. That it's not Forrest on the Monty. He's down below with the skeleton key instead. But it doesn't really matter who's in what position. What matters is SSG are in the site. They're putting the diffuser down at CEO, and he's whipped it. J9O finds two. ADS with the Monty, 180 degrees. He doesn't give a damn. Ambi and Rexen both fall to that pistol. 9 and 3 right now. And he might feel confident enough to go for a third. C4 goes out. No, instead, Geo slaps him down with the butt of the shotgun, puts the Monty flat on his back. But it's just chaos. He doesn't care. He's taken SQ's attention away from the diffuser, and while the Bs are littered on top of that case, if any of the remaining defenders go for the defuse, they are easy pickings for the SSG players outside. A banger start to the second half.
Yeah, I don't think you could ask for a more perfect way to start things off up against the Soniqs. Not only a great strategy, but also a little finesse there too, as J9O with 2 huge kills out of the Monty. And we've seen a lot more lethality out of this operator, post-update, as you do get to make that choice now when you do expose yourself and end up taking a fight. You don't have to worry about meleeing and potentially having somebody shoot your head off. Yeah, J9O does end up losing out to Geo on kind of that melee fight. A little lucky stab there from Geo. But at the end of the day, the spearhead that was necessary for Spacestation to battle back against the opposition, create that divide, and get a plant down, all at the behest of that strategy. I'm right. I mean, I'm blown away as well. That was pretty dynamic, I'd say, from Spacestation.
ADS is Monty. You're so vulnerable, and back's obviously turned, but just somehow able to flicker out. Just ridiculous plays, and just one of the many examples why many people argue J9O one of the best players, not only in the world but specifically in North America. I mean, a lot of that. I mean. That T3 OB core from like 4 years ago, which was like NJR, Iconic, J9O, Lags, of course, who substituted on SQ 4 years ago. Gone but not forgotten. He's retired now. He's off like fishing or something. But those players have become some of the best in North America, from youngins in 2020 to now J9O, 9 and 4 at the moment, one of the best players in North America. NJR and DZ, similar story. Really big growth from a lot of the players in this lobby, and well, now on Consulate, obviously making a good showing of it.
Oh, Geo felt something personal about that last round. He'll take out Ashen very early on, but for Ashen, that might have been express delivery. We don't know if he used the Gara hook and tried to fly into yellow, what exactly happened in that situation, but we do know at least what happened in the post-mortem. Ashen's dead. It's a 5 versus 4 in favor of the Soniqs, all off the backbone of Geo. He's tied up his KD spread here, 6-6. SSG, that's not going to slow them down, though. Looking to see where the next gap could potentially be. Bolts has found a lot of open area on the more eastern front. But as I say that, we do have 2 people on this mid floor that are going to stand in the way of that stairwell going downstairs.
In particular, Merc is going to be, I mean, this is going to be the guy to make it happen, especially now that Geo's been caught on yellow, I suppose. But I believe Rexen's also in this area. So Geo, not one of the main roamers that we kind of saw on that middle floor, but now taken down by yellow. He's a player that won't be able to bolster the site. But Merc running around with this Specchio, this is where he is at his most fearsome. So mechanically skilled, so quick to make maybe not necessarily the right decision, but an 80-20 instead of 100% that he can easily win. And SSG haven't really found a solution for either this roam or whether they even want to deal with it just yet. The Brava's all the way over by Visa, waiting to see if anybody maybe goes down those Visa stairs. But even Ambi's on this top floor. As Rexon is dropping down, there are still players from the Soniqs who are stationed up above. And with Ambi almost assuredly gone uncleared, could easily shoot Iconic in the back. But as Forrest looking underneath the barricade, does he know? Is he aware? No, he's not. The flashbang goes in, and Ambi waits, bides his time, waiting for Forrest to make a move.
This is so insane. Stun comes back. Ambi's aware, able to decapitate Forrest. 3 versus 4 now. Very minimal time for the offense to try and get something going, but Ambi, a detriment to the health of Space Station. Cancerous right now, and so get an extra for his troubles. J9O's there to finally snuff it, but he's done too much. Only 10 seconds remain. J9O will have to be Superman, X-ray vision or something to try and win this situation. Finally, Rexon will shut him down, and the Soniqs will win out a defensive round.
Such a nice read by SQ right there. Just such a nice decision. They say, okay, 4v4. We have 3 players up top, 1 down below. We got to rotate back. We have to. But Ambi, I imagine, gives the intel, guys, I haven't been droned. I'm making a play. Like, I absolutely have a play here. I mean, Merc has been shooting drones the entire round, trying to find out, of course, alongside Ambi, if he's been droned or not. So just by staying in that corner, Ambi's able to hit the gas pedal right when SSG are most weakest, because there is a point where the mid-round is ending and the execute stage is beginning, where the attack is pretty much set up. Maybe there's a little bit more to do, but they're about to go. And that is when they're most weakest, because players are focused on the job in front of them and the implications of it. Iconic on vertical destruction. Forrest making sure that nobody's inside of the lobby area, or even just trying to get an entry into that position. And when you have a player like that who's gone undroned, if he can time that flank perfectly or win that fight at the exact right time, the attack has to basically make a decision. Do we focus on that guy, or do we just press forward? And they don't have an option to switch after that. And no matter what they decide, they better hope that player doesn't get any more kills.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for the Soniqs, able to find a lot of gaps in the offense from Space Station on that last go-around. Making it to where this exact position that Merc was in, more than exploitable for Ambi. Now it's tied at 4-4. Look at these scoreboards right now, boys and girls. So very close in between these 2 rosters. We do have 2 high flyers, obviously. J9O and Ambi both feeling themselves in this game. And you got to be happy for Ambi. 2.0 KD, especially after what befell him yesterday. Definitely has to be feeling good about that. But the job's not done, as Iconic would say. Round 9 still to go. A lot more in between these 2 to be said. Ambi versing across the top level. Not too much in tow to assist him when it comes to utility and things, but necessarily needed. This top floor is going to be necessary. Try and hold things down for a while, but a lot of different working parts for the Soniqs when it comes to this mid-floor hold.
And the Solus, again, the big one. This time, I mean, of course, when you have that Solus up above on any bomb site, they can look down with that Specchio and spot where the case is being planted. We saw, I mean, the importance of that previously on Skyscraper when we saw players would drop the diffuser inside of the site to try to bait out that Solus and then kill her when she goes for the swing. Merc played a similar role last round, but it's a bit more important this time because Basement has a lot of spots to sit, a lot of spots to lurk, but losing that vertical control or holding it for Soniqs is a lot more important on this bomb site, because if that gets opened up, there are very little spots to sit, especially if SSG have a good entrance into main lobby. But similar to that previous round, there isn't a lot of success from SSG in the early games. Right now, a lot of these roamers are unknown. A lot of these positions are uncleared. And if Merc can hold on and use these angles that are actively being created in the round, or maybe if Iconic just walks into his crosshair, SQ will have a beautiful time in round 9.
J9O will tag up Ambi. 1 shot separating him from death now out of that 417. And yet another one out of Merc. The one man you really don't want to try and work those angles against. Finally, they'll catch him reloading. Ashen will gun him down, but A little bit of time now for Space Station, and they have to try and transition this into a plant. They're at the gates now, but Sonic still with a lot of verticality in hand, and that's what J9O and rest of SSG are trying to work on at the current moment.
They just don't have it. They just don't have anything really. The verticality going SQ's way. The Solus is down. That's the big one. So if there's no angle directly on Forest position, well, there is. So exploring that hypothetical, unfortunately, is moot. The remaining 2 players fall. J9O soon after. 5-4 for SQ. Even with that Solus taken off the board, the vertical angles, man, uncleared and uncounterable for SSG.
Well, you got to give it up to Merc there, because Space Station, they go for that entry on that Visa admin side, right? And they think, hey, there's a lot of angles that we can try and work over here. We can try and work our way up the checker stairwell, maybe get a little pressure on that top floor. Maybe something like the bathroom window will just be enough. We'll stick J9 over there. But once they start to try and work their way across that mid-level, they start to run into a lot of problems. Essentially, Merc being the big one, just not really having a solid understanding as to how he could go about things. No real drone pressure there. SSG starts to get antsy. They start looking for things and thinking that they can potentially get a little bit closer to sight than they really can. And they end up walking right into the open mouth of the bear right there, as Merc's able to gun down not only 1, but 2 people right at the bottom of the spiral stairs, practically in the exact same fashion. And that's going to lead into Soniqs not only having control over that top floor leading later into that round, but also having control of the round in general, throwing themselves into the lead, looking to do the same with round 10.
It's also SQ's 7th opening pick this entire game, and right now,
Jesus, I thought it was like 5.
No, and 6 rounds in a row as well. Now that doesn't mean, that they're winning all these rounds. Obviously, SSG able to pick up a couple, quite a few actually, that SQ have got that pick, but it still indicates that the early round engagements, whether that's happening at 2:45, or in the case of last round, if that's happening right as we reach that final minute, SQ are constantly getting these 5v4 advantages, and also, on this defensive half so far, they're not really giving them away. They're able to transition that into a 5v3 or a 4v3, but still keep the lead so far, and that was the big problem yesterday, and now, with these 3 rounds gone, 2-1 currently for Soniqs' defensive half inside of Consulate, it is looking that is not nearly as big of a problem as it was in their Oregon game yesterday.
A little retooling of the lineup here for Space Station. Something that might take a little bit longer to warm up to execution time, but definitely have quite a few tools to be able to break down a lot of Soniqs' harsher points that they've built up around the map. Oh, Geo with a beautiful Nitros out, more than likely off the audio cue of Iconic swinging in, and that's going to be the Lion dead and gone, something that could seriously help down the line. Yeah, they do have the mute jammers in, but be able to lock up even a few of the defensive members, definitely something that they're going to miss going on later into the round.
I mean, it's also SQ's 8th opening pick, man. Like, 10 rounds now, in 80% of them, SQ have a man advantage. That is such a nice stat line to have. And the only attack SSG have won so far was on this CEO bomb site, off the back of a very, very quick rush. The bomb down within a minute. And now with a minute left in the round, we see somebody rappelling in, and oh my god, please do not tell me there's a default cam up and Ambi knows this diffuser's going down. But because of those bees and the verticality, it doesn't matter. Sloppy mistakes might not really count for much inside of round 10, as even with that info fully relayed to SQ, the setup is good enough to get it over the line.
That just goes to show you how much, practice and just setup matter so much to moments like that inside of Siege. Yeah, SSG have a lot of sloppy things going on inside of the opening 2 minutes, but they are still able to set themselves up for that execute and be manning the proper angles. Look how many kills Space Station were able to gather, all from just solid crossplay. With that drone, or rather that plant, also going down. Also, a nice little fake there to obviously pick up a kill inside of CEO. But either way, all really solid moments for Space Station. At the end of the day, that definitely were not building up to be such a hot-to-trot moment for them.
They've just got that CEO attack locked. I mean, even without the Monty, It's not a new strategy. We've seen the Buck down below before. We've seen the Repellin with the Bees on CEO window. We've seen teams in Europe, Brazil run that same strategy, but SSG are executing it very effectively. And even in the 4v5, the fact that Fultz, like you said, is able to come up off the diffuser, get that kill. The player down below is also able to get in on the action. Really just nice stuff between Forest, Fultz, everybody, every remaining player from SSG that round. But that's still the only bomb site they've won up until this point. 2 CEO wins is great, but Soniqs have their comfortable territory up next as he moved back down to basement. But to be fair, Sam, I doubt Ambi can get away with ratting by the main door like he did before.
Yeah, definitely not. Even if there's no drone work for SSG around that area, it'll definitely be something that's stuck with them throughout this game. Drone hole moment here, and oh, Merc, sensing the vibe, something definitely wrong in the force. He's gonna run away. Oh, Merc. He's always so good in moments like this, man. I'm telling you, what is that from Merc? Every single thing you could have asked for J90, the info, the trudging of Kaid right around that door frame. He knows exactly where Merc is practically. He still loses the gunfight up against one of the best in the business when it comes to moments like that.
9-2 now for SQ. 5v4s are so good. But for SSG, remember, even with Ambi ratting in that corner, it still took 2 minutes for them to get presence on this middle floor, for Iconic to get into Piano and to start getting that vertical destruction. So even with this man disadvantage, there is still a strong enough setup and a strong enough precedent for SQ in this round that even without that play, it's still very possible. Of course, we see Forest get this quick control into the middle floor, but there's the castle setup in this way, and I imagine exactly still players on this middle floor who can take the fight to SSG attackers. Rexen finds not just one, but two with the MP7. Monty ADS, Rexen calling for backup, 911 being dialed. Where are the SQ defenders come to help him? All remaining attackers around this piano position, around Iconic on the middle floor. SQ don't need to react. They have that pressure on the east side now. They even have Ambi up above, another dimension. Not necessarily ratting in a corner, but can still hit a powerful flank when SSG are at their weakest.
Fultz was seemingly aware there as he was working his way up yellow, but oh my god, the timing. Oh my god, the timing. Fultz has done it. He's taken out Ambi. The late flank option now gone, but what an angle from Adam. What is that? He finds Fultz. Forest. He has the capability to plant, but does he even want to? Iconic on such little HP. He's found this pillar position. The plant will start now. Still a nitro, though, for
C4.
Geo. And such a big ask right now on this cross. Iconic has to win it. He doesn't even see him. Or somehow gets the plant down and the kill. Oh, my God! Space Station! How has this happened? There's no way in hell Space Station are able to get that round. How many things go right for the Soniqs, and they still can't win it out? They still can't handle the angle work from Iconic on literally a fraction's worth of HP. Oh my goodness. And it's a timeout from the Space Boys. Oh man, I'm gonna need a breather too. We gotta get back into the atmosphere. This is something else.
You just gotta ban Monty against Forest. I'm gonna be honest, like, I don't care what your game plan is. I don't care if Dokkaebi is the best operator and the best attacker in the game, or if Ying is the second best, what have you. You just gotta ban Monty against Forest. I see him do ridiculous things on this operator. And I remember sitting in the green room at SI with Nick, and we're watching him ADS in a round he absolutely should not. We're like, what is he doing? Is this man trolling? Why is he not playing it? He's killed 3 people after planting the bomb by ADSing his Monty. And in this round, guess what he does? Finds the player swinging close and then flicks and kills the guy rotating in the garage. Is that safe? No. Is it flashy as all hell? You are goddamn right, my friend. And it's got SSG match point. It's the one round that they needed to get to match point to break the trend of SQ's dominance on every side except CEO. And of course, SQ are going to go back to the middle floor because it's the only site they have left with 100% win rate for SQ.
I mean, that round is just so forest coded. It's insane, right? Like, there's just no other way to put it. SSG in a precarious scenario, able to not only somehow read through the fact that the Soniqs had that cloak and dagger play with Ambi going on the top floor, and they're able to snuff that out, but they're able to transition into a 2 versus 3 and make it just more than just a capable scenario, a winning formula in a moment where you really think that the Soniqs have the full deck of cards in their hand. There's really nothing that can go wrong. I mean, even down to the utility. I really thought that we were going to see that Nitro cell work its way in from Geo and potentially just be the end of the round there, but it's most definitely not what we got, and probably a round that the remainder of the NAL will be looking back on. Soniqs, though, they still have an opportunity to force us into overtime. So let's not get the cart ahead of the horse here. 30 seconds into what could potentially be the last round. Spacestation warming things up, at least for Iconic's situation from the CEO side.
Hoping to see if they can get that same vertical control, because again, with this exposition site, vertical control was not really established, at least in time, with that push along the mid floor. It forced SSG's hand, made them split their resources, but even going down so dominantly early on, it's hard to come back from. Though, obviously SSG able to come back from very stark odds in the case of the previous round. Now put SQ in a difficult position, but what are they going to find? The early round has been a consistent issue, even if it has not entailed who ends up winning it. There are 3 different players on this top floor that SSG could find if they can coordinate well enough, at least on the cutoff angle. Ambi's been put to a little over half HP. And there's another player on the window as he goes for the swing. Ashen cuts him down. That's SSG with a long-needed opening.
Just so many things happening around Ambi. It'll make his head spin. Has no idea where this pressure's flying in from. The window to his right-hand side bursts open with a hail of gunfire. He's taken out. Now he has to watch from the sidelines for, again, what could potentially be the winning moment for SSG. A 3-0 start to the NAL. All behind 1 round as Adam will go down 2. What has been one of the best players for the Soniqs to start the season, now down for the count as well. It's a 3 versus 5 with sub-minute for SSG.
Sub-minute, but still 2 players on the top floor. Merc finds 1 at the cost of so much HP, but Geo fights back. But Ashen finds 2! They line up for the newbie. Still staking his claim amongst the veterans. Rex in a tough day yesterday. Barely any presence. He spots a punch hole through the floor. Bolts does give away the game a little bit. And Rexon has time. 18 seconds, so little for the attack. And they're coalescing around that hatch. They're consolidating their resources. They found 1, but the rotate! He's stuck going through! A brutal retreat halted in its tracks to give SSG the 7-5 they richly deserve.
So much pain for the Soniqs. A lot of things to break down inside of that game for them. So many opportunities that they could have taken full advantage of. And just that moment right there for Space Station. Space goggles on, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to the future. Make sure you're listening to that new Future Metro Boomin album today, too. I'm telling you, that thing. But that's besides the point. It was some straight heat out of Space Station as they dropped a banger here for us on Friday. That's really all I got to say.
And the unfortunate reality is I complimented SQ's defenses. I said, look, they're not giving away the advantages like they did yesterday. They're finding the opening picks so consistently. But really, in the end, you could say it was the attacking half. You could say maybe they made mistakes here or there. But we're in overtime if Force doesn't hit a hero play on the Monty. And when SSG are in that flow state, in that comfort zone, I hate to say it, ladies and gentlemen, they just have the sauce. They just have that. They're just him in the moments that it counts. But that's it for Sam and I. We are certainly excited about the games today. We've had a very great time, and hopefully, if this is the first 2, the next 3 we have after this break will be even better.
If I'm anybody in that Sonics camp right now, I am absolutely fuming. That is 2 games over 2 days where it absolutely seemed like a winnable position, and it's just annoying when you're up against teams that are of the highest caliber to be put in situations where you can win seemingly easily. There are winnable rounds. You notice those mistakes, but you just can't close it out in the end. And Spacestation powered up at the end of that last game. There are so many clippable moments from that thing. I have a feeling guys like Fettuccine and Lynx are going to have a field day with what we saw from that game.
Oh, it was awesome.
I was so happy they powered up because I predicted that.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. One step closer to that thing right there.
I know. I went against the status quo, and they did not disappoint.
They really didn't. I mean, we really didn't know who was winning this game. Even on that last round, those last couple of rounds, it just did not, there was no way to lock this down and say, all right, one team is clearly running away with this. From the start, this was a back and forth contest, both on the attack and defense for both teams.
Every single round, SSG on defense has so many layers to their defenses. They had the Fenrir to deal with, they had the Solus to deny plant, they had a step-by-step, but Soniqs' attack were no slouch either. Every single attack, it looked like it was them the whole time. They'd get one pick, they'd switch it into 2, 3, and each round just kept going back and forth.
That was the crazy thing, is that Soniqs were wiping the floor with SSG when it came to the entry engagements. Ashen getting pummeled, 0-3. Iconic, 0-3. Forest, 0-2. 9-3 overall on the entry,
Wow.
but Spacestation, they just grinded their way out of those bad spots. The trades were big.
Especially when they swapped sides and Soniqs was on defense, it looked like they were getting the first pick more often than not. Obviously, getting 9 entry kills to 3 is a pretty big difference, but SSG just, like we said, we didn't know which way it would go. Their trade game was so influential, their information, and then obviously the Monty was huge. There was amazing plays that the Monty was able to clutch through, but it was just a step-by-step, round after round. SSG just knew if we just focus on our game plan, we'll be able to catch Soniqs out.
There was never a moment until the very end where one team won more than 2 rounds back-to-back, because, like, to your point, this was incredibly tight. But what is the thing that enables SSG to break away? On round 10, break point, we move into round 11, and suddenly this happens at the very back end of it.
The crazy part was it looked like SSG's attack was dead in the water. Forest on the Monty walked into a castle barricade, the attack stalled out, and it got fragmented.
And then once they had to confirm their execute onto the site, this is a beautiful angle right here for you guys to use in your rank game, but once they went to go for that plant, we saw that Soniqs had the game plan was to use the C4s to deny Forest from getting that diffuser down. The first one did half damage. The second one, nowhere to be found. The case goes down. Not only do you have Fultz upstairs, but Forrest did the job in the site on his own, just being able to stay alive, gets 2 with the Monty. Fultz finishes off on the hatch, but just letting them get that plant down was most often than not Soniqs' downfall.
Yeah.
SSG was forcefully pushing through, getting their trades. Also, prior to that round, they shot Ambi upstairs on the 3rd floor.
Denying the flank was
Denying
huge.
the flank.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
their information and constantly pushing with the Monty, SSG was just able to completely have control of the rounds, even when they were losing man advantage.
And even though everyone will look at the shield moment at the very end for the reason they won, look at all of the 4 to 5 things that happened prior in that round. One of them was Ambi looked like he was upstairs in prime position to just deny on the hatch, but he himself also, we should mention, had a fantastic game. He was not that great yesterday. For him to have a good bounce back performance today is exactly what the doctor ordered, even if Soniqs couldn't win this game.
And as much as a roller coaster as this game was, it's been a roller coaster of a start to the stage for Ambi. He started out game 1. Yes, it was a good performance by the team overall. Top-rated player, 9-6. Comes out yesterday, bottom-rated overall, 4-13. He bounces back today, 13-8, and once again, the top-rated player. It's been up and down for him.
It's nice to see him not let that status just affect him going into this match. Obviously, there was a lot of big plays from him, and he was always making the more aggressive play, the more roam-oriented play, and getting multi-kills off of it. And there was just a couple instances, the Monty situation right before they went for the plan where they got him on the top floor, that was probably the biggest loophole, just because they didn't have the information that they knew Ambi was upstairs.
Someone who's also kind of interesting in this entire SSG picture, and again, a great win here, is Iconic, a hero that we've talked about for the better part of the last year or 2 in this
plural,
game.
Yeah.
And he's just not having the performance that we're used to, I think it's fair to say. Now, the big question is, Is Iconic supposed to be performing better than he is right now? Or are we seeing him kind of slot into this more leadership-focused, support-focused role?
I mean, there was a reason they brought him in. Like, he can make big plays, but is the reason he's on the Space Station team to be that kind of playmaker for him, or what's the deal?
It's not. On his previous roster, everything was built around him and Spoy. On this roster, it's more team-orientated, built around the front team, finding the openings, and most of the time, who's going to call for those opening plays? It'll be Iconic. He's able to bounce back and forth off of Fultz and Forrest, too. So many Fs. Fultz and Forrest. But he's built on this team to just be that last line of defense if things go awry.
Well, let's get some answers from the man himself real quick. We got him on the line. Dude, it's interesting hearing, getting you on an interview in not an Astralis jersey, for one thing. But now that we've got you in this context, brother, you ran the gauntlet over these past 2 days. Talk to me about what it's been like on a brand new team.
I mean, it's not a brand new team. It's just kind of joining into that old Astralis system that has been kind of like updated, fine-lined, and streamlined just to get what we need to get done. And so it's just mainly kind of picking up where I left off, just kind of seeing the new things that they changed, getting comfortable with the system, getting the old habits out, and just kind of becoming a team again.
About this new system. I love every moment we cut to your camera during the game and you've got your notebook just square in your face reading off the strategy, right? And we're seeing you in these rounds maybe taking more of supportive roles than we're used to, maybe not quite getting as many kills as we're used to. Can you talk to me a little bit about this kind of role that you currently play in this organization?
I mean, I feel like I just do whatever it takes, you know? I feel like if I'm shooting one day, Liam's shooting another day, anyone could be shooting either the day. So it's just like, we're here for each other. We play off each other. You know, some days people are going to be hot, some days people are going to be cold. So, you know, only thing I do is control what I can control. I just show up and get my team what I need every day.
Well, first and foremost, Dave, congratulations. And my question is just a little bit more broad. Consulate, obviously a very important SSG map. When you came into this team, the new things that you guys have brought, did you bring anything brand new? Are you just slotting into directly's SSG system? Is it a mix of both? Is it some Astralis flair that we see on this new map? Talk to me a little bit about the over-encompassing strategy.
I mean, we mostly kept things the same. I slotted in some new things that I had learned, but it was mainly just kind of getting back to the basics and just kind of just getting that foundation, you know, because I feel like at the start of new teams is very hard building the foundation of like your overall default. So I feel like we've just been working towards that, and I feel like starting to get closer to playoffs, we'll start seeing the real SSG.
Did you have another one, Fox?
No, that was it.
Good
all you,
stuff.
Jacob.
One quick question. Ashen dropped a really good quote on us in his interview from yesterday. Is there any words of wisdom from the call-out Bible or anything that you know from your own back end that you want to drop on us today?
Talk is cheap. All these NAL teams, we're going to see y'all in the server, so just be ready for it.
Ooh, yep, it's getting spicy, dude. That is a 3-0 start for you and the Space Station boys. How does it feel, real quick, to be back with a core that you were super familiar with already? You had the M80 stint for a year. Now you're getting back together with most of the gang that made top 4 from SI just a year ago. It's got to feel good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of like a homecoming, especially playing for this great organization, Space Station. I mean, it's a true honor, you know, to be repping the badge. So I got to give thanks to them, and just, you know, I'm just extremely happy and grateful to be back. So, you know, it's going to be a fun year. So,
well, congratulations on having a phenomenal start to your stage, Dave. We'll see you guys next week, all right?
I appreciate it. You guys take it easy.
All right, everything that Space Station's doing is working, even if there will be some people that look at some of those rounds and go, they shouldn't have won that thing. Fact is, they did. The scoreboard shows 7-5 for Space Station, so Soniqs fans are just going to have to put up with it.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, when the round's won, and big players make big plays, and just being in the position there, especially with the new shield changes, it's about time Dave is on the other side of a tragic shield change, because you know, we had the Clash 180 on him, so it's nice that they're getting at least the Monty clips in there. So thank God. Thank God.
Good stuff.
It was another great game and another nail biter, right? You mentioned for the Soniqs, this is a tough blow to take after such a close game yesterday. We know this team is strong, though. Like I said before the game, we've seen the experience. We've seen how capable this team truly is in the way that they are keeping these games just so freaking close.
Yeah.
But they just haven't been able to pull it out.
Big point. Thank you so much to Soniqs and Space Station for yet another absolute barn burner on the day. That was kind of our match of the day. I think the Twitter account highlighted, yep, this is meant to be like the match that everybody was most excited for because we knew it was going to be tight. But now we move into a couple of games where we're not 100% certain how things are going to go. Dark Zero and the return of Los is game number 3 on Playday 4. See you in a sec.